Today's episode of the Goldcast is sponsored by Sliding Door Screens. Are you tired of bugs flying into your house? Then you should get a sliding door screen. It allows you to have the door open so you can have a nice draft, but the bugs don't get in, nor can perpetrators or unruly pets. Try sliding door screens at a nearby hardware store by you. Raymond, why don't you tell them where they can find us?
You can find us on facebook.com/thegoldcast. You can also follow us on Twitter at thegoldcast_. You can also follow us on Instagram at thegoldcast. And you can also subscribe to us via iTunes, YouTube, and Stitcher, all under the same moniker, The Goldcast. Subscribe, that way you get live notifications when we go live, whether that's listening to it on YouTube or turning on your Stitcher, or if you're an iOS user, then iTunes is going to be your best platform to listen to us. But make sure to subscribe. That way you'll get notifications and you can stay on top of all of our Niner news. Bay Area sports news.
I like how you said iOS instead of just Apple. I thought that was very fancy of you.
That is the technical term.
It sure is. So we're about to get into this. We've got a huge squad of Goldcast previous guest hosts, and we have a couple new guys joining the fray. This should be pretty fun, very exciting stuff. The draft has come and gone, and we're here to talk about it. We're going to be focusing primarily, obviously, on your team, the 49ers. And we're also going to be touching a little bit on, obviously, what the Raiders have done, the Bears trade, and, of course, those pesky Rams. So let's get into it. Goldcast, here we go. Let's get busy.
San Francisco, are you ready? This is the Goldcast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the Goldcast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
and our Los Angeles co-host,
Louis B.
And then we got a shitload of guests on this podcast right now. We got Pete Zimmer all the way from San Francisco. We got Coy Thomas all the way from San Francisco. And we got Max Marsh all the way from LA. Pete, say what's up, bro.
What's up, bro?
Coy, hey, welcome to the Goldcast, Coy.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Max, you as well. We've talked about getting you on for a while. Welcome to the Goldcast, bud.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much.
All right, so let's get into it. Huge draft, depending on what your team was. Lots and lots of stuff happened. We're going to get right into it. Let's start with the first round. Obviously, easily one of the biggest topics of conversation on all different sides was the first round trade between the San Francisco 49ers and the Chicago Bears. We traded our second pick to the Bears for their third round pick in exchange for 3 picks this year and 1 for 2018. Bears pick up Mitchell Trubisky, and we get Solomon Thomas, our defensive end. Raymond, we're going to start with you. Initial thoughts on that trade?
Absolute steal. I mean, I didn't know. When I heard that the Niners had moved up or moved down only one spot, I was like, one spot? And then later I read that Shanahan leaned over to Lynch and said, that's not for a defensive player. Like, meaning the Bears move whoever they want. It's certainly not a defensive player. So meaning that you can rest easy because we're still going to get our guy, which is they wanted Solomon Thomas all the way. I think if the Browns had picked Thomas, then we would have gotten, what's his name? Myles Garrett, because I think he was in their top 10. So the fact that we gave up our third pick for a guy that the Bears didn't even want, and then loaded up 1 for next year and 3 following, one of those picks that we ended up using to trade back into the first round. I thought it was awesome. The Bears paid for our first 2 picks.
Absolutely. So now I want to bring this over to you, Max. All right, you're our Chicago fan. This really messed some people up. I saw a lot of reactions on ESPN. There's all kinds of reactions on Twitter. How do you feel about this trade? And let me ask you, what were the Bears thinking? And I don't mean that I'm not messing. Like, literally, what was the thinking from the Bears front office? Why do you think they made that decision?
All right. Well, for me, first thing, even going into the draft, I texted a bunch of my friends. We had a group chat going on before the draft, and they're like, "Who do you think we're going to draft?" And I said, literally anybody but Mitch Trubisky. That was exactly what I sent. And so I was terrified. So it happened. And granted, I don't think there's a single Bears fan that didn't freak out briefly from the trade and then the choice. I think we all kind of took a pretty big sigh. But for me, in my mind, what I view is you had to believe that they at least believed that they were trading against somebody else, that they weren't just jumping up for no apparent reason. They believed that somebody, I would think the Browns or another team that was in need of a quarterback, was trading up so that they could get Trubisky. I think it's pretty clear. I think most teams or a lot of teams had Trubisky as probably the number one quarterback available. So I think that in their minds, and I think it's been set in motion for a long time. After hearing the stuff that they were talking about, they had mentioned that this was something that's been in the works for a long time, and that they were really thinking about this for weeks up before the draft. So I believe that they were trading up against somebody else. I've heard a lot of Niner fans or people that were covering it saying that the Niners conned them realistically, and that could be the case. Maybe Lynch lied. Maybe they told them that they were planning on taking him, or maybe they told them that another team was planning on taking him. I don't think the Bears honestly believed the Niners to be taking a quarterback. That didn't make sense because then the team wouldn't have traded them. They wouldn't have traded the pick if their goal was to draft a quarterback. So I think that the Bears believe that they were trading up against somebody else. Because if not, that trade literally is the dumbest thing in the history of the world. It doesn't make any sense.
Hey,
So-
can I say something as a Raider fan here?
Yeah, please, Pete.
As a Raider fan, you know what that smell is you're smelling out there, Max, in Chicago? It's called a dumpster fire. And it's exactly what I smelled every year at the draft. Marcus Russell and all that other crap. That's what you have on your hands, man. That's a dumpster fire. And until Reggie McKenzie got there, that's what we had, bro.
Hot take. Damn.
So yeah, okay.
No
So
one knows what they're saying.
yeah, okay. Now hold on. You said anybody but Mitchell Trubisky. So explain to me what were your reservations about him from the get-go, Max?
I don't believe this to be a very strong quarterback year. I don't believe that a quarterback would have changed the way our team would work. I don't believe that would put us in a better position to win, even for the future. I was afraid that they would make a choice like that they would try to make a big splash, try to get somebody, because it's hard. Being a Bears fan, our best quarterback of all time is Jay Cutler. And that's a terrifying thing to say. He is literally the best quarterback we have
More than
ever
Jim McMahon?
had. Yeah, he's the best quarterback we've ever had. We love Jim McMahon. Jim McMahon is a hero. Jim McMahon fought his heart out and just would bleed everywhere and get his legs ripped apart. And we loved that. But Jay Cutler is a better quarterback than Jim McMahon. And
Jay Cutler's lazy as shit.
Hey, am I saying that he's a great quarterback? Not at all. That's the sad thing. That's a terrifying thing as a franchise that is the oldest franchise in the history of professional football. That our best quarterback is Jay Cutler, and we literally just got rid of him for nothing because we just couldn't handle him around anymore. And so I believe that we needed a quarterback, and they needed to do something like that. I wanted a defensive player. I honestly don't think they would have taken Solomon Thomas even if he was available. I think that they would be going more safety, at least I would imagine. But the rest of the draft played out, and obviously they didn't think that safety or defensive back was an important position for them for whatever reason.
So
I feel like the Bears were in a similar position as the Niners, where quarterback was a need, but because the quarterbacks weren't strong coming into the draft, that they needed to stock up on the positions that were strong, and because Chicago had a lot of needs that wasn't a bad position to be in because the draft had those voids, had those potential players there, and the Niners I feel like really took advantage of that, whereas the Bears kind of went about it backwards.
No, and I agree with that. I agree with that to a point. I think this is what I believe. So having a couple days to sit on it, I did not like our draft at all in any single aspect of it. The entire time I was ridiculing the whole thing. Hearing Mitch Trubisky talk is just a chore sounds like the dumbest human being that has ever spoken a word. It was terrifying because I believe that they thought that they were getting a Drew Brees. That's you have to look at where Pace came from. Pace came from the Saints. And if you look at this draft, it's a very Saints draft. It's like he's trying to recreate what the Saints were. He goes a former basketball player, enormous athletic tight end in round 2. He goes statistically the most accurate quarterback in the draft as the number 2 overall pick. He goes Darren Sproles in round 4. He goes Jari Evans, a no-name guy out of a Division II school in round 5. You know, he was really trying to recreate the Saints draft, I think, in this. And I think that that's what he's going for. And if they believe that those guys, I don't get paid money to scout to scout college athletes. And most of the footage that I watched of these guys looked like it was filmed by my dad because they're Division II schools, you know? So I have no idea about any of these guys. So I have to believe that what they thought that they were getting out of Mitch Trubisky is a Drew Brees. They thought that that's what he was. And if that's their guy, they did everything they took to get their guy. I don't like him. I don't like the pick. But if that's what they believe he can be, then you know, the picks that we give up for him doesn't matter. It really doesn't. If he ends up being Drew Brees or even remotely like Drew Brees, the picks really don't matter as much. I really
then
don't.
It becomes the greatest, you know, the greatest trade of all time if he becomes great. And if he doesn't, then it becomes, you know, the biggest blunder, which is what everyone's kind of seen it as right now thus far.
It's still too early to tell, too. It's still way too early to tell. You could be right. You could sit on the bench behind Glennon for a year and then come out and maybe he's pro ready by next year. Hey, Pete, do you think Trubisky's pro ready by next year?
I don't know the kid that well. I just know he only has 13 starts, and I was hearing a bunch of stuff and read a bunch of stuff that this is a kind of a move to save John Fox's ass because it buys him a couple more years as a head coach because now they have a backup and he doesn't have to win right now and all that kind of stuff. That could be it. But, I mean, he only has 13 starts in the NFL, and he might be great. But,
unless that line is stout, then he's gonna be falling into a position where he could potentially go the Blaine Gabbert path or even the Alex Smith path, where your supporting cast has not been filled adequately to really help supplement his development.
And I will intervene real fast and just say too, I'm sure we all understand that, but 13 starts in college. You said NFL by accident, but yeah, they're obviously 13 in college, which I'm in the same boat as you. That's 13 starts in college, and that's where you have your name.
And he did lose. I think he lost 4 of his last 5. I think he lost. What was the final? Was 8-5, right? That was
he was 8-5. Yeah.
8-5. Coy, any thoughts on Mitch Trubisky?
I mean, nothing that, you know, everyone pretty much didn't already say themselves. I mean, the guy only has 13 college football starts. That's not enough. And honestly, I couldn't stop shaking my head at the Bears. I'm like, dude, they got fooled. I mean, I didn't understand. You know, I heard that there were some other, you know, trade deals on the table, but I just don't think that anything was. I don't think that they still could have got him at 3. Why did they have to move up one spot? Yeah. I just don't. I mean,
because somebody else was bidding for the 2 spot.
But no one was gonna do it. No one. I mean, I just don't believe that anyone was gonna go up there and get him. I really don't. I just think the Bears got ousted on that one. Seriously.
Lynch said that him and the Bears talked a week before the draft to like set the table for a potential trade. And then as it got to draft day, that's when he started hooking in more calls. And then when the Bears came calling again, or vice versa, the Bears were inquiring about the 2 pit position. And I think Lynch probably also kind of sold it a little bit, saying, yeah, I've got some people. You know, it's just like in my business, like, you know, in real estate. Sometimes, you know, you got to fluff a little bit. But I think Lynch kind of fluffed a little bit to help sell the fact that you know, I got some people circling the wagon. So what are you going to do? You know, you don't know whether that person's really going to make a move or not. So it's a dice roll.
As he should have, though. That's a great move. That's a really smart move to just say, hey, people are asking, blah, 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 because you know that team's quarterback hungry. It's a great move. I think but I agree. I like what Max said about the fact that maybe there were other teams. We don't know. Maybe there were other teams that, you know, were going for that pick, and You know what I mean? Maybe they felt the heat of it. There's a lot of things unknown.
I think sorry, I don't mean to cut you, but I think for me, what I keep looking at is it can't possibly, unless, like, and it's true, either it's the dumbest trade in the history of the world because they sent anything. You sent a toaster to anybody for a pick above you that wasn't going to take a guy. If there's nobody else trading for that guy, that's a dumb trade. That's the way it is. You could give somebody $5 for the trade above you if no one's trading for you. That's a dumb trade. Like that's impossible. It doesn't make actual sense. So you have to believe that they at least believed that somebody was doing that. And if not, that's a great call by Lynch. You have to commend him for it. But I don't think there's a world in which they just sent, 4 extra picks for 1 pick above them. It's just not. That just isn't rational.
And just to say something, it's selling 101. Look, here's the thing. Let's just say there was two other trade deals on the table. Here's one scenario. Here, let me offer you a 3rd round pick, and then the other one's like, I'll give you a 4th round and 5th round pick to move up, a few spots or whatever, or whatever, like. Either way, the deals that were on the table were nowhere near as the size of the ones that the Bears gave. You know what I mean? And so, like, I just like.
Yeah, and obviously the Bears felt like whatever John Lynch said, the Bears felt like they had to drop a deal on the table that nobody else could match, and then and whoever was there, they backed off, and that was it.
Right. Whether the other bid was legitimate or not, I think if you're in the Bears position, he's thinking, if I don't make this deal and we lose out on this player, it's like I'd rather go. It's like baseball. You'd rather go down swinging than looking.
Yep. Okay, so check this out. Let's move on. Let's move on to this next one. This is another one that kind of there was a lot of rumors surrounding it. Let's look at the Raiders. So I swear, when your guys' pick came up, I'm looking at you, Pete and Coy. When that pick came up, I thought for sure you guys were taking Reuben Foster. It looked like everything I'd been reading they were saying that if Reuben Foster fell, if he even did, which most people didn't think he'd fall that far, but they said if he did, the Raiders were most likely going to try and get him. And I thought for sure when your pick was up, I was looking at that screen, I was like, they're going to grab Reuben Foster. They're going to grab Reuben Foster. And then then you don't. Now, Coy, we talked about this a little bit that night on text. You had mentioned about the off the field concerns, which is my concern as well, was with too. But now you've got this cornerback out of Ohio State. You got Conley with this rape allegation. Now, according to him, he's really, he's really adamant. He's going to go do some sort of, I don't know what kind of test he's down for. He might have already done it, or he's doing it on Monday. I want to start with you, Coy, and then we'll go to you, Pete. Thoughts about Conley and his off-the-field concerns, and how do you feel about that first pick?
When Reggie McKenzie says we did our due diligence, I believe it. That's all there is to it. I mean, he said, and I also heard that he went and did he got on a polygraph and he passed. I mean, the Raiders don't just, I know that in the past the Raiders have made really stupid draft decisions, but when Reggie McKenzie says we did our due diligence and we believe in all facets of the conversation that he is not guilty of this crime, you know what I mean? Then I believe it, and that's all there is to it. And honestly, he's got the pedigree, the background. He's tall, long. We needed a cornerback. We don't need. This is the coach in me talking. Okay, so for the last couple of years, we've picked up a few linebackers, near on ball, Ben Heaney.
Oh, Coy, give the rest of the Goldcast and our listeners just your background real quick, just so they know what you mean, what you do.
Okay, yeah. Well, listen. So I played ball for 7 years, and then I've coached for 5 years. I took this last season off, but the last 3 years I coached in Piedmont, which is in Oakland, right across the bay from San Francisco, and we were back-to-back Black Shoreline champions for a Division high school football team. I was the defensive coordinator for the JV team and the defensive backs coach for the varsity, so I had my hands in both squads.
That's super
all year
dope.
long. So it was so rewarding, so much fun, and honestly, it changed my whole life. So I really loved it a lot, and so kind of going back to what I was saying, they didn't just draft these guys for no reason. They drafted these dudes because they want to develop them, and that's one thing about this coaching staff the Raiders have right now. There's over 126 years of NFL playing experience on the coaching staff. So they're drafting guys, and if they're not exactly the mold that they want them to be, they're going to still give them a shot. I mean, we're still within 1 or 2 years of drafting them, so they want to develop them. We don't need to add another Reuben Foster hash, or like I would call him an Aldon Smith type fool with a bad, which is like, I mean, his personality, dude. I don't know, man. I don't want anything to do with someone like that.
So Pete, going to you, how did you feel about Conley?
To be honest, I had seen him play at Ohio State because he's the picked on corner at Ohio State, and Ohio State's always on for whatever reason. But the kid's good. Like, as a football player, he's a quality pick. I would have liked the middle linebacker, but I believe that the linebackers we have are better than the corners that we have. Could we use an upgrade at both positions? Sure. But I honestly believe, and the Raiders are the Raiders. They have a long history of incredible corners, and that plays into some decisions. If this guy, and I completely 100% agree with Coy, that Reggie McKenzie's built up enough equity that he says, with Raider fans and with Raider Nation, that if he says, hey, this guy's good, we've done our research, we believe the kid, it's good. But it is a risk. There is a risk, because otherwise, if the kid ends up in jail, we just wasted a pick.
Pete, not to cut you off, but like, dude, I mean, it's not just Reggie. It's also Jack Del Rio and Ken Norton. Dude, Ken Norton won 3 Super Bowls in 3 years in a row. Like, dude, like, and he also won one in Seattle too. Like, Jack Del Rio played. I mean, these are no nonsense people. That's all I can say. Like, because that's what I'm saying. Like, they're players, they're people, they're coaches who played the game for a long time and had illustrious NFL careers, and now they coach too, and they've coached for years. I trust what they say. Like, there's no way I couldn't. I mean, they're teachers. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what they do.
I will say this: I do agree with you guys. I do believe the front office of the Oakland Raiders has definitely earned some equity, and the decisions you guys have made since this front office has been put in so far have proven to pan out very well. You guys are doing really good. Derek Carr's a beast. I think you were one quarterback injury away from facing the Pats possibly in the AFC Championship, and I thought you were the only team that actually could contend with them seriously at that level in the playoffs. Once you guys went down, I think the Pats are going to go. I don't think there's anyone that could stop them. You guys were like my last hope of someone stopping the Pats, and this is coming from a Niners fan, so it's got to be real. So that's how you know. Max, any thoughts on Conley?
I think, especially lately, I think a lot of personal conduct stuff has come into play a lot more. I think it really does, and I think it's really telling too that it came between two guys that are inarguable in terms of how much talent they have. Reggie Ragland, I wanted him to go to the Raiders because I think the guy's an absolute freak of nature. He's a shutdown cover linebacker, which is amazing. There's not a lot of those guys coming out of college anymore, and it's starting a lot more too. But you have to believe, and again, I echo what everybody else is saying. Their staff, their front office has done an unbelievable job since the Davises have stopped taking over everything. They've really done a good job. And if they do take people with personal conduct issues, it's always been very, very well vetted. They've always taken a really good look at that stuff since the new front office. But I mean, there is obviously a concern. There's obviously a concern because if anything ends up happening with this, it's gonna be a big deal. It's their first round pick. But I mean, you gotta. I mean, a corner is clearly a more pressing need than inside linebacker, I think, for the Raiders. And if they believe that they have a shutdown corner for the next 7-8 years, I think that's worth more. And I think if they really check that out, what else can you ask for?
Well, and kind of the same thing in Conley's defense. I obviously none of us were there. Obviously, none of us know what happened. But already the story being presented by the accuser isn't consistent with even what's being shown on the videos. So there's already a lot of inconsistency going on there. And hopefully it turns out. Hopefully Conley didn't do anything. Hopefully because I wouldn't wish obviously that event upon any woman. And hopefully a guy with his level of talent isn't in a situation where he completely messes up his life up for one dumb decision. And so hopefully it comes out that there's nothing to be worried about and everything's fine. So let's move on.
Isn't that what we all hope, man? My God.
Isn't that what we say about all our players?
God,
yeah.
really hope nothing happens.
I think it's just the optics of it that make it look worse than it actually is. Because it's like an allegation, nothing's been charged. But I mean, to step away, that's really the only thing that people are kind of harping on the Raiders about, is because the NFL is really big on having clean players and having a clean PR record, and players that come in with these flags. This guy had a bigger flag than even Reuben Foster, although Reuben Foster kind of showed a little bit of arrogance, which to me was a little bit contradictory to what Lynch wants, to the type of player that Lynch wants to recruit. But perhaps he's thinking he can corral him in and kind of help mold him into the consummate pro that he aspires the whole team to be. So, but in terms of football, I think he's exactly what the Raiders needed. You guys are 24th in against the pass last year, so that was a glaring hole that needed to be filled.
All right, so let's move on. So the Rams finally get back on the board, Louis.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. Well, let's be dead real. Really, who cares? You know what I mean? The draft we had, really, who gives a shit? God damn it. Our draft, oh, man. Dude, I'm sitting there. I wasn't able to watch the second round live. I mean, why would I watch the first round? We didn't have a pick. So I watched the second round live, and I'm taking a look at updates. I'm waiting for us to pick, and I see that we traded down. I was like, awesome, great. Like, let's try to get some picks for next year, because like at least or this year more in the second round, whatever. So we traded down. I was happy with that, and then I was like missing the news. I didn't see, and I see that we pick a tight end named Gerald Everett, who, mind you, is a freak. He's an athletic freak, really big and really fast, and that's awesome. He has great hands, big body dude. That's great. Dude, I love weapons. But we picked a tight end with our first pick. We have a mediocre at best offensive line. We have no receiving core outside of Mr. Tavon Austin. We have our secondary is completely depleted. There's no one to complement Aaron Donald on the defensive line. Robert Quinn is starting to lose his step. I mean, we are hurting in literally every position, including tight end, but I didn't think it was that high on the list for them to take him as their first pick of the draft, and we didn't have a first round. So, I mean, like, I was insanely upset about it. I thought we had a terrible draft. If Les Snead is still which he should have been the GM this year, if he's still the GM after this season, I will be shocked. I think he's going to be let go of. And I mean, yeah, we picked Gerald Everett, Cooper Kupp, who looked like speed. He looked kind of like that interior slot guy, like I wouldn't say Julian Edelman because he has yet to prove anything, but maybe like a Cole Beasley or someone, just a fast, quick guy, a good route runner, which is nice. That's good. I like that third round pick, but like, man, that second rounder, we could have gotten at least. This cornerback draft was so deep. Like, I'm not saying we could have gotten a top-notch guy, but you could have gotten someone else. A safety.
What's
corner.
His name? The guy who Dallas picked up in the Awuzabi. I can't remember how. I can't even pronounce.
I can't say his name. The Colorado guy. That's all I know.
Yeah, the Colorado kid. That kid. When I saw that, I was really upset that Dallas picked him up because I knew the Niners had their eye on him, and we were up about 2 or 3 picks later, and we grabbed a cornerback, which meant I knew he was on our list because we immediately grabbed the next best cornerback available. But I was really surprised the Rams didn't pick him up. I was really surprised. Once I saw that I didn't realize he was still on the board until I saw Dallas pick him, and that's when I texted you and I was like, "Why didn't you guys pick that guy up? Why did you pick up this tight end? You didn't pick up that cornerback."
Weren't the Rams trying to shop Jermaine Johnson too?
Yes. Oh, yeah, because why do we need a secondary? Why would you need to stop the pass?
Yeah.
I don't get it, bro. I don't understand where their heads are at. And again, I'll reiterate, Max. Like, I watch a lot of football, and I have for a lot of years, but I'm not paid to be a talent scout, so I get it like that. Yeah, maybe they're seeing things that I'm not. But, bro, there is no world where it's like, oh, we got Gerald Everett. Well, now we're going to be a top-flight offense. Like, no, dude. We still have a lot of holes. Our offensive line still can't block for shit for Jared Goff. Goff ain't going to do anything if he doesn't have time to throw the ball. And vice versa. We can't get the ball on the field. We can get the ball on the field, but we can't move it down if we're getting scored on every drive because our secondary can't stop anything. We have no safety. We have no safety help. And Jermaine Johnson is a good corner, but he's the only guy. We don't have any big gun safeties. Our other cornerback, who usually is EJ Gaines, who had a promising rookie year, but since has totally fizzled out. We have literally no secondary. And I understand we're in the NFC West and it's not a big, high flying offenses, but bro, there's still the rest of the league we got to worry about. So I was unbelievably shocked. I can't believe that it was a tight end. I thought we would for sure at least go line or defense. I know it wasn't a deep offensive line draft, so I thought for sure we'll go corner or go safety or something. When we traded down, like I said, I liked it, but now that I figured out that the Colorado guy was still there, we could have signed him. I mean, it's just, dude, I'm so happy at all. I mean, dude, the article that Rudy just sent me for their draft grade was a C-. That's the highest I've seen. I mean, I'm shocked at that. Like, I've seen D's mostly, and I agree with that. Like, we had a horrendous draft. We're literally still going to be, if we win more than 4 games next year, I'll be shocked. We're going to be 4-12 again. I'm not.
Hey, you can keep beating the Niners, or the Niners keep beating you, or how's that work?
Oh yeah, we always beat the Niners.
Until
we always beat the
year,
Rams.
Trade.
Until last year, you dicks. Until last year, there wasn't a problem. But of course, we gave the Niners their only 2 goddamn wins of the year last year, just to spite the shit out of me.
Hold on,
Oh,
Pete.
God.
Pete, I got to tell you the story. Pete. So we're at my engagement party here in LA last summer, right? And my dad, who's like always our spiritual, unofficial member of the Gold Cast, my dad is sitting there. And we're going over, just like we've done many times drunkenly in the middle of the night at Pete's house, going over what we believe the records for next season are going to be. My dad tells Louie, he goes, your team, the Rams, they're going to go 4-12, and I predict that the Niners are going to sweep you. And Louie just loses his shit. He goes, okay, no, that's not happening. No, he just loses his shit. So what? Now you tell him the week 4 text, Louie, where you call him.
Oh my God. So, now I must say, we might have said this, but I want the other guys in the Goldcast to hear this again, and everyone should hear. The Goldcast Nation should just hear this story again because this is insane. This is why Rudy Jr. or Rudy Sr. to me is just the omen or philosopher, whatever you want to call him, of this Goldcast. He tells me that, and I lose my shit. And then it's now week 4, and the Rams are 3-1. The Rams are 3-1. In week 4, and I text Rudy and I go, bro, you do realize that the Rams have to lose 11 of their next 12 in order for your dad to be right? And we lost 11 of our next 12. Do you guys understand how insane that is? That shouldn't happen in life. And then we started losing, and it's like week 10, and we're like 3-8. And I'm like, all right, well, now I'm getting a little nervous. Like, why haven't we won a game in 5 weeks? And then it just went. We won 1 of the next 11. I mean, it was brutal to watch. And yeah, he was totally right. We got swept by the Niners, and we went 4-12.
Yep.
Unfathomable.
All right. So let's go through this. I'm going to go through some draft grades. I just pulled up, three of the big sites. I went Bleacher Report, ESPN, and Sports Illustrated. And then I'm going to jump around. I want to hear everyone's thoughts. So Bleacher Report, Niners A-, Rams B-, Raiders B, Bears C. ESPN, Mel Kiper, he said Niners A-, Rams C-, Raiders C, Bears C+. Sports Illustrated, Niners said A-, Rams C, Raiders B-, Bears C-. So hearing those go, let's first, I want to start with you, Raymond. How do you, well, I mean, I don't think you're going to have too much of an issue with A- across the board. But how do you feel about the draft in general? Do you agree with that letter grade?
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy because Lynch has really shocked me. I mean, I knew how good of a player he was. I just didn't know if that prowess as a player was going to translate as a GM, because it's 2 different worlds. I mean, even player to coach is vastly different. You know, even if you do have, Super Bowl rings, to give you credibility. Mike Singletary is a Hall of Famer and a Super Bowl winner, and he was not a very good coach for the San Francisco 49ers. So, that's proof in the pudding that, just because you've won it and you were the best at your position during your time doesn't always mean that you can teach it. So But John Lynch to me looks extremely surgical and specific in what he's doing. Where the free agency he stacked up on offense, and then he front ended the offense via free agency, and then in the draft he front ended the defense, and then on the back end of the draft he got in a bunch of offense, mostly offense, some defense. To basically all those guys, so that the impact players are on defense, they're going to start, and then your offensive guys are going to learn under the veteran guys that you picked up via free agency. So it looks very, very clear that there is a clear plan in place, and that is something that I haven't seen in a while. So it was very refreshing.
You mean the entire Trent Baalke era?
So,
Yeah.
Pete, why don't you go off on this for a second? Because Pete, for like 3 years, has just ripped Trent Baalke to me for like 3
That guy was
years.
garbage.
Yeah.
See, the one thing my only real football expertise outside of my fandom is that I know what garbage ass football and garbage ass front offices look like because I'm a Raider.
That's awesome.
So that's where my expertise
Come on, man.
is. Like I said, I can smell a dumpster fire when I see one, and I know when a guy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Like, or he's just not doing it right. He's being stubborn for no apparent reason. Like, I'm sure there's back end reasons that these guys make these decisions. We don't get to see them because like we all said, we don't evaluate talent for a living. But at the end of the day, most of those guys, like when they're just dumpster fires and horrible picks, and you're like, why is this guy drafting the same player 2 years in a row in the first round? That guy's got to go. So that's my opinion on Trent Baalke. Plus, he was also the worst interview that I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, dude, it doesn't matter. I would watch him on TV when I would watch, like, the stuff on CSN and all that stuff. It's like, dude, you are the most boring human being in the world. Like, your wife must hate you. You're so boring. Like, you have to have some sort of personality to at least sell stuff. Like, John Lynch is a charming guy, and he charmed the shit out of the fucking Chicago Bears. He has personality. You know what? I'm pretty sure Trent Baalke's not fooling anybody.
Well, I was saying this. I told my brother, I said, I think I realized the reason everyone traded with Trent Baalke is because they knew he wasn't going to get anybody good. So they didn't matter. It didn't matter to them.
So
like,
true.
Sure.
So
You
true.
want this trade? Sure. Whatever.
That guy has a dodgy past and a history of knee injuries. Let's get him.
Yeah.
That's great.
Hey, we didn't get anyone with a torn ACL this year. I'm really happy. That alone, I feel we won the draft. That alone. Nobody with a
Upgrade.
torn ACL. So let's move on to the Raiders. How do you guys feel about your overall grade? You get a B from Bleacher Report, C from ESPN, and then a B- from Sports Illustrated. But how do you guys feel? Coy, let's start with you. Overall, looking at the entire draft, how do you feel walking out? Do you feel more confident, in the middle? Where are you at?
I feel pretty good throughout the whole entire thing, to be honest with you. There's only one pick that I didn't really understand, and that was that running back that we got from North Carolina. I don't know if you guys saw any highlights of that kid, but he looks fat and slow. So he's fat and slow, and we have Marshawn Lynch, DeAndre Washington, and Jalen Richard, who are all we have three capable running backs. Plus we have Jameis Olawale. I have no idea why we just drafted a fat, slow running back. Like, there was no reason for that. It didn't really seem to be any rhyme or reason. But the offensive linemen we got are going to add a little bit more competition to the guys we drafted from a couple years ago, over the past couple years with Reggie. Add some more competition to the O-line. That's good for the offense. I like that. That Obi kid, that 6'4" safety, dude, that's retarded. And in Conley, we definitely hit where we needed to. We got a couple of backup players to add a little bit more depth and a little bit more competition to those areas of need. And I think that's really what you want. Because it's like, hey, if I have this one starter and he's not becoming what I want him to become. Maybe if I add a couple more guys in the mix, and hey, you know what? Maybe that guy starts working a little bit harder. You know what I mean? And that's kind of just how it works. If you compete really hard at practice and stack good practices on top of good practices, you're gonna have come Sunday, you're gonna play a good football game. That's it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I'm at. And you know what? I have to touch on the Niner thing real quick, dude. You guys are acting like you won the draft. Give me a break. These guys had one I just have one question for the Niner fans, and I'm not going to bag on anyone or anything like that. Here's my question to the Niner fans: who is the face of your franchise?
You're looking way too ahead if you're talking about face of the franchise. We're not at face of the franchise level right now. We're at foundation building and hole plugging. We're not at
exactly.
If you're like if you were sitting here, if we're sitting here talking about face of the franchise, then it's the wrong conversation because the 49ers aren't there. Like, not there right now. It's all about plugging as many holes as possible, and it's similar to the Rams. We're not one player away from playoff contention. We're not even 2 players away from playoff contention. What we're trying to do is get out of a what is a total of how many wins we had in the last 2 years? 2 to 6. I mean, I don't even know. We had two last year, and I think 5 the year before. I mean, that's not. I think that's not a question we shouldn't be asking ourselves at this point. You know,
without a doubt, and I agree with that as the resident absolute Niner hater. That's kind of the point that I agree with on the fact that I think there's a difference, and I see what you're saying. I don't know if the Niners. Honestly, I think the Niners and the Browns, quote unquote, won the draft. There's a difference between winning the draft or at
winning
least the first
season.
Round. There's a difference.
No one's going to hand out trophies for winning the draft.
Winning that. Without a doubt. And you got all they did, but I thought what both teams did in the first round was you guys just built up a really steady foundation of good defensive dudes that can help you guys out. Yeah, this year, though, for both of those, not that anyone gives a shit about the Browns here, but for both, I just see similarities because you guys had a similar first round, but there's neither of those teams have anyone that's going to do anything this year. The Niners aren't going to go 12-4. And the Browns are going to go 13-3. Like, you know what I mean? They're going to have losing seasons. But now that you guys built that foundation, now you guys are that much closer to having that, being that one piece away. You know what I mean? Being that, if you guys drafted a quarterback this year, I would be like, okay, well, you guys are the Bears. You guys are fucked because there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. You know what I mean? Like, you guys picked a quarterback and you shouldn't have because you didn't need, you didn't do that this year. Focus on building the foundation and then go to the quarterback when there's a quarterback heavy year.
Yeah, I think that's more. I think that's 2 to 3 years down the line. I even as excited as I am about the draft, and even though I did feel like we won the draft, my best expectation is between 4 and 6 games. I mean, at the most, I'll be ecstatic if we get to 6. My head will explode if we win 6. I mean, I still really think that there's just that much work to do, and everyone we've got, I'm really happy with what we did in free agency. I'm really happy with what we did in the draft, but we'll see next Sunday. I'll tell you how I feel about this team in January of next year, because that's when I'll know how I feel about what the 49ers have done. And all these guys are, as far as I'm concerned, while they're all super talented from where they came from, they're all unproven in a 49ers jersey, and we're not going to find out till September.
That's kind of what I was talking about. There's just so much more. There's just so much more time and so much more development that you guys need. You guys are literally 2 or 3 years away from even having a winning season.
Oh yeah,
that's realistic. And I just keep hearing this, you guys are just basically about ready to suck John Lynch off. And come on, man, it's called beginner's luck. Let's see a couple more years what you got in here. Let's see what happens next year, the year after that. You guys need a lot more, baby. You need a lot more, dog.
I agree.
The Bears choked. The Bears were crapping down their leg, and you guys got lucky on that pick. I'm telling you right now, it ain't gonna happen every year. It ain't gonna be like that every time. Well, it was a cakewalk.
Hopefully, we're not in the second pick of the draft every year either. That's the goal is not to be in that position again. But having said that, let's go over to Pete. Pete, I want to hear you. How do you feel about the overall Raiders draft?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I believe Reggie McKenzie when he says that this guy's going to be good. I like the safety pick. He's a big guy. They're trying to do he could be the Cam Chancellor of our defense. I like the corner. I still would have liked to have a linebacker. I agree with. I almost agree completely with Coy. I watched the 10 minutes of highlights I watched on this kid from North Carolina. I'm like, he ain't making the team. Nah. I mean, as much as I love fat athletes, they're my favorite, but it's not gonna
work. Who doesn't love a nice fat athlete?
Dude,
man, who doesn't?
Baseball.
I was gonna say baseball. I love a fat baseball player.
Those are the best.
They are the best fat baseball players.
wrong with you?
Yep.
They're the best.
All right,
But
Louis.
yeah, no, running back is not exactly the fat athlete choice position.
So Louis, let's go to you. Overall Rams grade. You know, you got CCC and then 1B. Bleacher Report gave you a B. How do you feel about the Rams draft?
Which is insane. I don't know why they would think a B would be the appropriate draft grade for us. I was on my football app, and it's called The Score, and that's where I kind of get a lot of my news. And I got they gave us a D. I kind of see C- to D in that range. I have no sort of rose-colored glasses or whatever that term is. I have no sort of those on. It was a bad draft. We didn't really. Only guy we got that really approached our weaknesses was Cooper Kupp in the third round, who is not going to come in and be a playmaker that's going to change our offense from the start. He's just an extra weapon he's just an extra guy to have on the field. He's better than what we have now. So, but I mean, we really, we didn't.
But you have receivers?
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, and that's about it. So I mean, yeah, we didn't upgrade anything. We didn't upgrade offensive line. We didn't upgrade our secondary. We didn't upgrade. And Cooper Kupp is a minor upgrade in our already depleted receiving core. I mean, yeah, no, we're gonna be bad again. Like I said,
So can I ask a question? I didn't do my scouting report on Cooper Kupp. That seems to be your MO. Is that guy 5'8" and fast?
Did you? Excuse me. Who didn't do their research on Cooper Kupp, sir?
Sorry, I'm so unprepared.
No, I will say, I honestly don't even know. I think he's, I don't even know how.
Eastern Washington.
Yeah, Eastern Washington. Yeah, no. That I'm trying to think of his.
Right.
Oh my God, yeah. Have you not seen? Oh yeah, he's the whitest kid that there is. He's such a white dude. But like that, and that's why I see him as that, like, he, on paper, like the Cole Beasley. He's a good route runner. He has sure hands, which we saw in college. But as of now,
small white fast guy anymore clearly.
Wait, what'd you say?
You just basically described every small fast white guy.
Yes, with Cole Beasley, you're absolutely right. Yeah. No, without a doubt. I'm hoping if he becomes anything like Cole Beasley, I'll be ecstatic. Like, that's my bar. As a Rams fan, that's my bar right now. Like, I just want a Cole Beasley and I'll be happy. That's how sad this life is, you guys, as a Rams fan. So just so you know.
So hold on before we do, Coy's offering some words of wisdom. Coy, why don't you break down what you were writing on Skype so that our viewers can hear.
So all I'm saying is, there's that old saying, and it goes that a tight end is a quarterback's best friend. I mean, they give a lot of formation leverage to a lot of offenses. They contribute in blocking and receiving game, so they can do a lot for you. So I mean, from what I see Jared Goff, who didn't have a good year last year, but he's still learning. My brother actually coached him at Marin Catholic in high school, and then he went on to Cal, had a great career, and I'm sure he's going to be good in the NFL, man. He's not going to suck. And you got Todd Gurley, you got Tavon Austin, now you got a good tight end, and you have an okay, like, decent offensive line. That sounds like a good recipe right there. I'm just trying to add a little bit of hope to it. I'm not trying to, I'm not saying like this dude's going to like change everything, but like it's going to help. I think that was a good move, man. Honestly,
that's greatly appreciated. No, I love the hope, and trust me, man. I mean, I play up the cynicism a little bit extra in the off season. Come the regular season, I'm the most hopeful guy you'll see. And no, I agree, man. And look, having a big-bodied, athletic tight end, which is what he is. The dude is actually if you look at his combine numbers, he's a pretty freakish athlete, which I'm down. I don't think it was a bad pick. I just didn't see the immediate logic of, hey, let's take this guy. Now, again, it was a deep tight end year, so maybe, and that's where I say maybe they saw something that I'm not seeing, and they said, you know what? Let's get this big body tight end and this big body weapon that can right away Goff can start making a relationship with and a dynamic with, and hopefully come something out of it. Without a doubt. I just don't, like I said, I think there was a lot more glaring holes in other parts of our game, and but I mean, then again, we had the 30th worst offense, so maybe that's a step in the right direction.
There's only one way to go up. There's only one direction to go from here. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get any worse.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get worse.
Exactly. Being 30th overall, you should be headed in the right direction from here. A good solid athletic tight end will definitely help your cause, I think, for sure.
Without a doubt. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, Max, let's go to you, buddy. Final thoughts. How do you feel overall about the Bears draft?
Well, viscerally when it happened, I thought like F minus, like it was bad. But I think when I sat down and I thought about it, the Trubisky thing. I mean, realistically, the draft will hinge how we look at it in the future on what Mitch Trubisky turns into. If Money Mitch or Big Money Trubs or Trubby, the Teletubby, I don't care. If he becomes a 10-year starter and he becomes a guy that if he becomes a Joe Flacco regular season, I won't put it in the playoffs. Let's not talk about that. But if he becomes anything like that, a quarterback that can that can lead your team, if he becomes that guy, that'll hinge on the entire draft. Looking back at it, the number one thing we needed is defensive backs. And we addressed that with a guy that, broke his leg last year, and we got him in the fourth, I believe it was our 4th round pick. That was our first defensive back we took, and that was frustrating. That was irritating. But outside of that, we got a good 3rd down back that is somebody for a quarterback, hopefully Mitch Trubisky in a year or two, to throw to. We got a big freak athlete of a tight end, 6'7", 270, run a 4.7 40. Like, that's a crazy
Good
athlete.
God.
He played D2. He's a guy that if we can develop him, is an insane asset to have. And then we got an offensive lineman. I liked our offensive line last year. I thought outside of left tackle, which just wasn't a great draft this year, I thought we addressed some things. And I think as of right now, a C- or a D+ is probably about accurate on face value. But we won't know. This is not a draft class that's going to produce next year. This is not a draft class that we're going to look at next year and know exactly what happened. We won't know until 2-3 years down the line. And is that enough to save Pace and Fox's job? We don't know yet.
That's good. That's really good. Gentlemen, well done. Kick ass. Happy draft weekend. That was really awesome. Thank you guys. Coy, thank you so much for coming on for the first time. Love it. Definitely want to have you on again. Max, same with you. Definitely want to have you guys on again. You guys, that was fantastic. Love having the contributions. Love the passion. It was great. Love all the insight. Thank you so much. Pete, you're like practically a regular member of this goddamn thing at this point.
He's turning out that way. I'm sitting in the car talking on my phone.
Pete's like on every other week now. We'll come back. We still need to do. I promised Pete and Coy that we would come back and we'd talk about this Marshawn Lynch thing. So let's do one maybe.
Oh man.
Yeah, we'll sit down and talk about that a little bit later this week. Hopefully we'll have some time. We can talk about beast mode in the black and gray.
Beast mode.
The only Seattle Seahawks player I ever liked because I hate that fucking team. So the only one I ever liked. Raymond, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Ray Solis.
All right, and you can find me at Rudy Solis 3rd, Rudy Solis 3 on 3RD on Twitter and Instagram. Louis, where can they find you?
I'm at actually Louis B on Instagram and Twitter.
And Coy, Pete, I didn't ask you guys ahead of time. Anything you want to promote, plug or announce? Anything you want to, anything you want to promote? Hey, check this out, check that out. You got your school. Why don't you plug your school for us, Coy?
Actually, no, as of right now, I got nothing for you. Maybe over the next couple months, and maybe next time we talk, maybe I'll have some for you. But right now, I'm good.
Cool. Pete, you're good too, right? I'll catch you at the bar.
Exactly, dude.
I'll be there
at the bar.
Yeah.
At a bar.
You can find Coy next to Pete at the bar.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there drinking tequila or whiskey or both.
Oh, I love all those.
Don't hesitate to buy either of us a shot. We accept gifts.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being on the Goldcast. So concludes another edition of the Goldcast. We'll see you next time. Same Goldcast time, same Goldcast channel.
This is the Goldcast.